Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. In this video today, I will be reviewing episode 3 of House of the Dragon, the new season, season 2. So guys, this will be, as I've just stated, my third review on this TV show for season 2. And if anyone wants to see my thoughts on episodes 1 and 2, there will be links provided in the description of the video below. Also, this is one of my most anticipated shows of the 2024 year, and if you guys want to see a more detailed analysis of that, there will be a link in the description as well for that video. And without further ado, we're going to get into it here. So first, I kind of want to recap what happened in episode 2, some of the events that I see that were pretty much a factor in episode 3. First off, we're going to talk about the death of Prince Jaehaerys. That had happened at the end of episode 1, and then it was a big focal point in episode 2, and that was a huge tension builder, but that's between both Rhaenyra and Aegon. And so basically the war is pretty much full force. We haven't seen much of it yet, but again, that death basically just completely escalates this to a whole nother level. The king wants blood, as you would have expected. And there's just people in King's Landing that have taken advantage of this. There's a guy known as Lord Larys, and who's been kind of poisoning the king. And then also Sir Criston Cole seems to be using this to kind of settle some vendetta he has against Rhaenyra for rejecting him earlier on in the show in season 1. But yeah, basically, Cole, in the last episode, he basically enacted an assassination plot against Rhaenyra for this. Luckily, that does fail, but it does end up with two of the Eric brothers that were twins. They were on opposing sides of this conflict. They had to fight each other, and they both died as a result of this battle. So that was a big part of the episode. And also, we have Daemon, who he was the one that ordered the hit on Jaehaerys. Well, Jaehaerys' death was indirect. The hit was meant from Aemon Targaryen, but Jaehaerys was just the backup in case they couldn't get to Aemon. So basically, Daemon was questioned for his brutal tactics by Rhaenyra for this, and as a result, he just kind of goes off to do his quest to conquer Harrenhal. And then, of course, another big thing I thought was Mysaria. She was a character in season 1. She helped Daemon a lot. They had this on and off love affair, but she basically saved Rhaenyra in the last episode. And basically, I think that, that basically to me was like, well, she's going to become part of Rhaenyra's council because of her loyalty and basically her contacts. She is very well connected in King's Landing, so we'll have to see what happens with that. And that's really all I have for a recap. We're going to go into now the episode 3 review. And we're going to start off with what was a hit with this episode, the good. So, the best aspect of this episode is arguably the performances by the characters. And I'm actually going to take a step forward. I'm going to talk about the final scene of the episode. It's a scene between both Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower. And let me tell you guys, it is such a powerful moment of dialogue, and it builds so much suspense between the two. See, both Rhaenyra and Alicent were one of the more, relatable story arcs, because they were best friends before all this drama and before this war happened. So it was always interesting to see how that relationship developed, and it got worse and worse as the families grew apart. But I really, really liked this scene because it really just shows basically who the other is. It's like Rhaenyra at this point in the show, she doesn't really want war. Like when Luke died, she basically wanted Aemon. She didn't want to go after the whole family. But then it blew up, and then Jaehaerys died thanks to Daemon. And now, everyone is doing everything on the side. To basically all the advisors are for both sides are basically they're longing for this war, right? And Rhaenyra and even Alicent don't want the war, it seems like. But then in this scene when they're talking and everything's coming out, we realize where the mistake was drawn, and you get to see how Alicent, instead of kind of righting her wrong, she's like, no, you're wrong, and we're going to war. So to me, that just shows that Alicent really is just such a selfish person. Like, she always has just been selfish, and Rhaenyra, she tried to do the right thing, and Alicent refused to. So now we're at war. But I really thought that moment between those two at the end of the episode was such a spectacle to behold. The performances by Olivia Cook and Emma Darcy were just outstanding here, guys. Arguably, probably the best part of the whole episode. We also see some really good performance by Daemon Targaryen in this episode. So basically, he's off to conquer Harrenhal, right? And it's weird because Harrenhal was basically burned down by Larys in a plot last season. But like, what I found interesting was that the setting of Harrenhal, it's such an eerie setting. It's dark, and it just matches like Daemon's darker character tendencies. I thought that was a really good like atmosphere, character combination. And then also, as like the episode progresses, we get a scene where he is basically haunted by a younger version of Rhaenyra, almost like he feels some kind of guilt for his actions towards the death of Prince Jaehaerys. And there's also like just some random witch that basically was like, "Oh, you're gonna die here," and which we'll I don't know what that's all about, but we'll see. But yeah, he's at Harrenhal. He's trying to conquer it for Rhaenyra. So that was a big part of the episode. And then another character I want to talk about here was Larys. He wasn't in the last episode, but he makes and he wasn't really in this episode. The appearances he makes are very brief, but when he does, they're very strong. Like it's like a huge like progression for the character. So in this one, there's a scene where he just kind of just influences King Aegon, and basically he becomes the new Master of Whispers. Slight spoilers. To me, it's just showing he's just trying to build his power more and more. Like I said, he reminds me of Littlefinger. If anyone's watched Game of Thrones, he's just kind of just weaseling his way around, from power dynamic to power dynamic. So that was a big thing. I'm curious to see what's going to happen to his character as this show continues. And then that goes back into Aegon, right? So he's continuing to struggle to be such a fitting king for the most part. He's making these hasty decisions, and a small council, they're just not the same without Otto Hightower, who he basically fired as Hand of the King in the last episode. And then he gave that honor to Sir Criston Cole. But because of this, it's like he's not really ruling, and he's just being manipulated by the political figures around him. Like Larry's, when Larry's for some reason doesn't want him to go to battle, was basically like, oh, this rumor's happening, you should stay. And he's just easily manipulated, right? He still hasn't found his calling as a ruler. And then also there's an interaction between Aemon and Aegon in this episode that I thought was captured pretty brilliantly. It just kind of shows like the opposing personalities. Like Aegon is just this cocky jerk, even though he has a lot of insecurities. And Aemon too, like Aemon is bad in his own sense, but you can tell he's kind of like a tragic character here. Like you can tell he feels remorse for his part in Luke's death. So like I like the show is trying to make him relatable. They're not trying to just paint him as this cold-hearted person. So I thought that was a neat interaction we saw between the two in the episode. Then, of course, like I said, Mysaria does become advisor to Rhaenyra in this episode, thanks to her uncovering Criston's assassination plot. And we already get to see some of her work as she tries to help Rhaenyra kind of maneuver about this conflict. We also get a new character called Ulf. He makes his debut in this episode as one of the lowly occupants of King's Landing. And we kind of discover that he may be a bastard son of King Jaehaerys. Basically, he's claiming he's the half brother to former King Viserys, and honestly, and Daemon. So that could mean some potential, usurping behind scenes, in the future. So I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with that, And then we also another thing I noticed was the debut of Gwaine Hightower. I had no idea that Alicent had a brother. It was never mentioned, or maybe I just never picked up on it. But basically, he's joining the march to Harrenhal by Sir Criston Cole. And let me tell you, Sir Criston Cole, he basically is starting to use his newfound position as hand to make his own decisions, but they're more military decisions than anything. But everything, this leads to a tense encounter between Sir Kristen Cole and Gwaine against Bela and her dragon. Bela is a daughter of Daemon, through Lane of Valerian. So there was these neat, intense counter there, and that's basically the first, I guess, revelation of war, because now we're seeing that people are moving in other people's territories, which kind of leads to Rhaenyra trying to hold off on it and get Alicent to come to a truce. But like I said earlier in this video, that is not going to be happening. But that was everything that was a hit with this episode. I'm going to be going to what was a miss now, the bad. So let me tell you guys, we're going to now go to the beginning of the episode. It was a bit disappointing that we didn't get to see the Battle of the Riverlands Mill between House Bracken and House Blackwater. So basically, both House Bracken and House Blackwater have had this years-long feud between the two families, and they both had... one likes the Targaryens, one is supporting Rhaenyra, one is supporting Aegon, and they basically, it comes to a really bloody heel here, but they never show this battle. It's a really strong scene in the beginning of the episode, but the battle itself, it then cuts and everyone's dead. And I don't know, I'm kind of frustrated. There's just been a lack of inaction in this episode. I get they're saving the battles for bigger ones, but I feel like Game of Thrones, when there was always a chance to show a battle, they showed it. Here it's they're really just not showing it at all, and it's it would, to me, would add to the episode. Yes, there's been some great performances that have really carried this season, and the dialogue is awesome, and the political, landscape is awesome, but I miss the battles, and, I feel like they really squandered a good opportunity here for the most part. Also, another character in this episode is Rhaena. She's the sister of Bela. She's given the task of watching over Rhaenyra's younger kids during this war. But let me tell you, she's kind of annoyed and she doesn't want to deal with it. But it's really hard to really relate to her because the show hasn't really given us much time to flesh out her character and to make her emotions feel more wholesome. So, like I said in a previous video, I really hope that the kids start to get fleshed out more, because I can't really relate to them. I can't really feel for them because they don't really give them the proper screen time to really flesh out as characters. When Luke died, yeah, it had big ramifications, but I didn't know him very well, so his death to me wasn't that much of an emotional impact. So, and also, guys, this really isn't a miss. This is more of just something I noticed. There's a moment when Rhaenyra is giving Rhaena everything that we get to see these eggs, and the eggs are the same colors of the eggs that Daenerys has in Game of Thrones, and I thought that was an outstanding Easter egg. And Rhaenyra even basically says this is the future to our house. So, and I've looked at it, and it has been confirmed, I believe, that these eggs are indeed Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal, which are Khaleesi's dragons. So I'm interested to see where do they go from here. How did they get to Khaleesi in Game of Thrones, I thought that was a really neat Easter egg and a nice little tie into Game of Thrones. But now we're going to go into the conclusion. And so, guys, this is yet another strong episode. Despite its lack of inaction in the period of war we are exploring, the show continues to make its mark with some outstanding performances by Emma D'Arcy, Olivia Cooke, and Matt Smith, with some truly great moments of dialogue and the political warfare that this universe is so well known for. And with all that said, I gotta give this show currently a rating of a 4 out of a 5. It is definitely very strong. I didn't like it as much as last week's episode, but it continues to move the plot along, and we get a strong episode. All right? And that is all for today. I will be covering the next episode once it releases. This is Jake from CINECALIBER.